Alright, this is my review of the XPRO 125cc ATVs. Got one for my son and my daughter, and they've been pretty nice. So these are a couple upgrades that I've done to them, starting with the sprockets. You can change the front or the back, but I didn't want to take the chance of not being able to find the right bolt pattern for the back. But the front sprockets were plentiful. If you just remove that plate right there, there's two 8mm bolts. You remove that and you can access the sprockets. So I started out, they come from the factory with a 14 tooth sprocket, and the max speed on this one was 27 miles an hour with the 14 tooth, but it wouldn't climb hills. So I ended up going with a 10 tooth just to give it more torque, and the 10 tooth did give it torque climbing the hills, but it dropped the max speed down to 19 miles an hour. Their old bikes, their electric bikes, would do about 19, so it was okay. But my son, of course, he was constantly bouncing off the rev limiter. So started out with a 14 and then dropped to a 10. That's 19 miles an hour. So 27 to 10, 27 to 19 miles an hour. And then I went with a 12 tooth just to split the difference, and it ended up being just right. Gave us 23 miles an hour. He wasn't bouncing off rev limiter anymore, and they could still pull the heels. I also bought a couple of different chain sets with those. So those chain sets come with a breaker and extra links, so you can kind of move that around. While we're back here, I got 2-inch wheel spacers, which widened it in the back, which made it just right. And that worked out on both bikes. We got added basically 4 inches to the back, and the factory kits worked. So while we're here, shocks. The factory rear shock is an actual shock with the spring, whereas the front shock it seems to be just a spring with a rod. So everybody was recommending these RFY shocks, and they're pretty good. I mean, I like them. I watch my daughter going across the yard and hitting bumps, and it seems to do pretty well. And they actually absorb, so when you push down on them, they're slow to come back up, and it's just not a spring and a rod. Intake. So this is just me, but I upgraded their intakes. And while I'm here, there's a breather that goes on the factory one. There's a breather line that goes down with the check valve right there, and that hose was really soft, so I replaced the hose on that because it was bent. But it goes up to the intake, and then there's the intake. I got the intake for both bikes, and it opened it up. The only reason I didn't like the factory intake is because it was tilted upwards. So let's say, like, if you got some splash and water up there, with it being tilted upwards and being like a bowl, if water got down in there, it's basically gonna just feed straight into the engine. My son, he wanted his to be louder, so on these bikes they have these exhausts. So look at his and then look at hers. From the factory they were the same, but I saw some people removing this spark arrestor. So on his, I removed the spark arrestor right before I bought exhaust, and it definitely makes it louder, and he likes it. My daughter actually wants hers quieter, but I told her, this is probably as quiet as we're going to be able to get it. The carburetors. Here's a view of the carburetor. I think it says PZ20. And as you can see on mine, I've removed the anti-tamper covers, and this is so you can kind of play with the fuel or whatever. But on this one, there's just an idle screw. That's the one in the middle is the idle screw, and The one on the front is the fuel mixture for down low, so it doesn't actually have like a high-end mixture like the Nibby or anything like that. I wanted to get the Nibby, but this, honestly, it works. If I ever have any problems out of these, then, or if I want to tune, you know, the cruising or wide open, then I'll go with the Nibby, or I'll probably buy jets before I do that. So when they first got it, both of them immediately complained about their thumbs. So I bought this, what's called a thumb buddy, and it's just like this piece of metal that's wrapped in rubber, and it makes it a whole lot easier to press. And I never heard anything else from them about their thumbs hurting. So there's the thumb buddy. It basically just zip ties on there and makes it a whole lot easier to press. Moving to the front, they both have light bars. They're Nightlight or Enlight light bars. They're 18 watts. Yeah, Nightlight. These are super bright. The factory headlights, they're okay, but they're not great. But at 18 watts, this Nightlight 18 watt, 12 volt, it's super bright at night, and it's plenty for them. Moving on with the lights, I bought light whips. So my daughter has a 3-foot light whip. My son has a single 4-foot light whip. And at first I was confused about like where should I wire it up. I had bought a relay, and I was gonna relay it into something. I couldn't find it. So in the book that came with these bikes, at the very back of it is a wiring diagram. And these Chinese bikes are kind of funny, because they'll change colors on you. So whenever you're wiring up stuff, use your multimeter before you actually wire it up, because for whatever reason they alternate colors when they go through connectors. But the best place I found for hooking up electrical is on the brake lights. Whenever you turn the bike on, the brake light gets 12 volts. It's a switch. And whenever you press on either brake, whether it be the handlebar brake or the foot pedal brake, it sends the 12 volts. So for example, there's the foot brake and there's the master cylinder. Whenever you press the foot brake, there's 2 wires there. One of the wires is hot at all times, and when you press the switch, it sends power through the other wire. So it's only 2 wires. Use my multimeter to confirm it, but the reason why I use it is because it sends 12 volts at all times as long as the switch is on. So that's the rear brake. I ended up wiring it to this hand brake. So underneath the bike, I just followed the hand brake positive wire down to underneath, and yes, that's how they wired it up. But I found the connector, and when you turn the switch on, you get 12 volts. And so I wired the light bar and the light whip to that. Now my light whip, actually that's not correct. My light whip is connected to power from the brake switch to this switch. So when I turn the bike on and hit that switch, the light bar comes on. And then what I did on the headlights is I ran the headlights to the factory headlights. One thing I like about these bikes is they have a high beam and low beam, right? So the bikes are different as far as high beam and low beam goes. My son's has a single light in the headlights position, and it goes 8 or 9 volts on low beam, and then the full 12 volts, 13 volts on high beam. Whereas my daughter's, she's got 2 different light circuits. On low beam, the middle of those LEDs light up, and then on high beam, the outside lights up. So I wired the light bar to the high beam wire on both of them. What ended up happening is my son's, with his only having a single light source and low voltage for low beam, is the lights are low. All 3 lights are low on low beam, and then all 3 lights are high on high beam. Whereas my daughter's, when you turn the lights on, only her headlights light up, and then the positive signal for her light bar is coming through that secondary light circuit. So both of them, that's nice. Like I like it that way. They're different, but her high beam turns on all 3 lights. Low beam is just the main headlights, and for his, all 3 come on, and on high beam they all get 12 volts. My son's, so immediately riding them, I noticed that my son, I don't know if it's because he rides a little bit more aggressive, but he his didn't pull off like hers. So I adjusted the clutch. They have these nice screws right here. I guess it's like the Honda clone, the screw. You can adjust that. There's a bunch of videos on how to adjust those. So I adjusted his, and I still didn't like the way it pulled off. Hers just pulled off so much nicer. So I ended up swapping out the clutch on his, and I guess that fixed it because it feels like normal. So as far as oil, I use the Lucas wet clutch. I think it's like 15W40. It was the recommended, so that's what we're using. And then for gas, I actually work for the company that makes the True Fuel, so I run the True Fuel 4-cycle gas. All in all, they've been pretty sweet, and I like it. Here's a little demonstration. I'm gonna turn the, this is so switch is on, light whip is on with the ignition, and then like I'm gonna turn on the low beams. So that's for him, low beams. Both of them are on low, and then high beams. So that's pretty sweet. And then for hers, turn the switch on. So light bars on with the little thumb switch. And then, for example, so low beams, like I said, this is low beams. It's just the center of the light, no light bar. And then high beam, all 3 on, full 12 volts. All in all, they've been great. My kids love them. My son is 5. My daughter is 9. And my son, he could just barely reach it when he first got it, but I guess he's found his position on the seat, and now he can reach the brakes, shifter, everything seems to be working well for him. And these are the single speed bikes, so it's just forward and reverse. The back of them has disc brakes. The front has the drum brakes. I had to adjust them immediately. The drum brakes weren't that great in the front, and now they're mediocre after adjusting them. The rear brakes are great. The disc brakes in the back, they're great. I mean, he steps on it and he slides, so that worked out for him. All in all, they're great. You're gonna find like little things on these to make them better, because they're not perfect, but they are fun. Those wheels are the same size as golf cart wheels. The golf cart hubcaps actually fit the rear. I'm not sure about the front. Also right here, I think this is probably the starter relay. I think it's the starter relay. It was taped up with black tape from the factory. I just put a zip tie around that because I don't know, it just looked tacky and was starting to unravel. And there it is. XPRO 125cc.